Hi guys, and welcome to my 2023 Huevember sketchbook tour. This is probably gonna be the most colorful sketchbook tour you're ever gonna see, so that's super exciting. And on top of that, I'm super excited to show you guys everything that I've made this month. This is probably gonna be a very long video, so buckle up, grab your sketchbook, maybe draw along, get a little snack. And also, if you don't want any of the intro stuff, because I'm gonna talk a bit about the supplies and just my thoughts and rules and what Huevember is in general, in case you don't know. So yeah, then you can skip here. So in case you don't know what Huevember is a month-long challenge where you draw one illustration every day throughout November, and every single day has a different color, or a different hue, I should say. And you have to make an illustration with that color. You can obviously use black and white or even other colors as long as the main color stays the main color. As for me, I decided to not use any other colors and really just use the main color and then black and white and grays. So I wrote myself some prompts and I followed most of those. But for me, I really just wanted to have fun this month and practice, so I wasn't too strict. But yeah. So, Huevember. So first of all, my planning. So I decided that I wanted to practice my alcohol markers for Huevember, so I went through all of my markers, and then I chose some colors that kind of resembled the official Huevember color wheel. I obviously couldn't get it perfect because it's not digital, so I really did manage to get a wide variety of hues, and even though this is probably not really following the color wheel all too well, especially in the beginning, but I figured that it wouldn't matter that much because the illustrations were going to be separate anyways. So for nearly all of the days I used these twin markers. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them. I will get into why later, but yeah, they didn't really work, but these were the ones I have, so they were the ones I used. If I'm gonna continue making marker illustrations, I will definitely have to buy some new ones. I'm probably gonna look into buying some Ohuhu brush markers. You've probably heard of them because they're very popular right now. And then speaking of Ohuhu, we're gonna talk about the paper. So I made all of the illustrations inside this Ohuhu sketchbook. It is the Ohuhu marker pad, I believe. It has marker paper, but because alcohol markers bleed through to the other page, for half of the illustrations I used this Fabriano cardstock paper. It's not anything special, it's just because I had to use some other paper, and it worked fine. And then all of the thumbnailing and planning I actually did in this Leuchtturm sketchbook, which I have finished by now. I finished it at the end of November, so that's super exciting. And if you want to see all of this, I will have a sketchbook tour coming very soon, so be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss that. But yeah, I did all of the planning in here, and we will get through that as well today, so that I can show you where the illustrations come from. A couple more supplies that are worth mentioning is this magenta Polychromos Faber-Castell pencil, as well as a couple Sakura microns that bled with alcohol markers, so I didn't really use those. And instead, at like the halfway mark, I started using this Pentel Energel because it didn't bleed with markers, which was amazing. So if I used line art, I used some of these. Most of the days I actually just used a normal mechanical pencil also for the line art, or I didn't use line art, I kind of messed around with it a little bit. I think that will be it for the intro, so it's finally time to start the actual tour. So there is actually one more thing that I want to say, and that is that I filmed my entire process for the first week of Huevember, and you can watch that all here. So if you're interested in some more behind the scenes stuff and really how all the illustrations came to be, you can watch that. I really spent a long time on it, and I'm very proud of it, and it didn't reach that many people, so if you want to watch it, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so the first day, my prompt was man. And we had this lemony color, so we drew this man which has like lemons on his little blazer and yellow pants. It's very bright, very fun, and I followed the prompt because it is a man. Then next day we have day 2, which the prompt was fan art, and I was drawing Armin that day, and because that really fitted the prompt and the character, I drew Armin for day 2. There we have him. I don't have all that much to say about him other than I really love Armin, okay? Not this illustration so much. I do like the sketches though. I won't really get into too much detail for the first 7 days because I already talk about everything in the video, but for day 3 the prompt was still life, and we had this very pretty yellowy color. So I drew a little corner of my desk. Here's the little thumbnail. It's really not that special, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to spend like 3 hours on every single illustration because I just didn't have time for that. There were 30 in total. Then for day 4 the prompt was ball gown, so I drew Belle. With the bright yellowy color, I immediately thought of Belle from Beauty and the Beast, so I sketched her a little in my sketchbook, and then we have the finished illustration right there. So day 5 was actually a really fun one. The prompt was memory, and there was finally an orangey color, so that made me think of autumn. So I wanted to draw myself surrounded by like autumn leaves and trees, but that didn't really happen yet. So in order to make it an actual memory, which was the prompt, I actually went out for a walk that day, and then I came back and then I drew it. So yeah, there we have the finished one. I drew myself on a walk. You can't really see that I'm walking, but I am outside and I'm surrounded by leaves. And this was actually a really fun one. This is one of the ones where I use more like cartoony style that I sometimes use with the dot eyes. I think it's really, really cute. And this thumbnail was definitely one of my favorites. For day 6, the prompt was breakfast, and I was definitely not too excited about that, but I cooked up a nice breakfast. It was very yummy, and then I drew said breakfast. I really don't have that much to say about it. It's not the most interesting one, but I do really like the bright orange that this day had. And also, this was only day 6 and already my gray markers were really starting to dry out. And this one, it kind of makes a cool texture because it kind of looks like a marble countertop, which it's supposed to resemble. But it was only day 6 and it wasn't gonna get much better from here. Day 7 was definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorites. The prompt was building, and I was not very excited about drawing a building, but we had this very orangey orange, and it reminded me of a pumpkin, so I drew a little pumpkin house, and I really think it's adorable. I really, really love how it's looking. I think I did a good job in adding contrast with the values, and I just really like it. It's really, really cute. I especially love the little thumbnail. I feel like this one is very lively. One of my favorites for sure. Right next to it we have day 8, which is definitely not one of my favorites. It's a very, very quick one, and I don't necessarily dislike it. It's just a very quick one. I just did some... Oh, and the prompt was swimwear, by the way. I just did some very quick like bathing suits, a little head, and I was like, let's go with it. I really didn't spend too long on it, but it's alright. Right next to it we have day 9, which was this really pretty red color, and I immediately knew that I wanted to draw Hua Chang from Heaven Official's Blessing. So I sketched him a couple of times in my sketchbook, or rather a lot of times, but I decided to pick a prompt regardless, and I was just gonna throw it away if I didn't feel like using it. But the prompt I got was model, and I was like, no, that's perfect. This guy is definitely a model, so I decided to draw him, and I really, really like how it turned out. So to be really honest, this was actually drawn a day later because on the day that I was supposed to draw this, I was actually busy with editing the Huevember week 1, but I really love it, so let's appreciate our man for a moment. And on to day 10. So on day 10 the prompt was monster, and it was another red color, just a little bit more pinky. And I was really struggling with this one. I just couldn't come up with anything I liked. I don't normally draw any like abnormal humans or monsters. So eventually I came up with this girl, which is more of a demon, which not really a monster, but I also drew some more silly little guys. I don't know, it's really not my favorite, and this brush was actually one that was really, really feathering, so I couldn't really draw with it, and oh, oops. I couldn't really draw with it, and it's not one of the best days, but that's alright, because that was the whole thing. It's a challenge. You have 30 days. So for day 11, there was this really dark old red color, and I really wasn't sure what to do with it, because the prompt was self-portrait, and I just wasn't inspired. I didn't know what to do with the color. The only thing I could think of was me looking at disgust in the marker because I just didn't like the color and I didn't like it. But then I realized it was like a perfect wine color, so I was like, what if I draw myself with a bottle? Not a bottle. What if I draw myself with a glass of wine? And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing. So there we have it. I'm looking very happily with my glass of wine. Isn't it lovely? I like it. I honestly feel like I look like a vampire here because of like the dark skin, the reddish skin, I don't know, the white skin, just the skin, but I do really like it. So day 12 was one of those unfortunate combinations. So like I said, every day I picked a prompt blindly, and then I just went with it, and like I came up with something and then I just went with it. And it was a very, very fluorescent pink. And the prompt was, where is it? The prompt was nature, and I was like, no, there aren't things in nature that are such a bright pink. So I struggled a bit with it, but eventually I just ended up with this little girl sniffing a rose. And I was able to layer the pink with like a grace to make it a lot less saturated. And it actually made this like nice purple, so that's very exciting. Yeah, right after I drew this, I really wasn't that happy with it. I mean, I do feel like the proportions are a little off, but I don't think it's bad. I actually like it more now. So the prompt for day 13 was fairy, which I was super excited about before getting the prompt, but then once I actually got it, I was really, really struggling with it. I just couldn't come up with a design, and then I couldn't come up with a pose because I had to work in like this format because of my paper, and it took me a while to come up with something. And then once I was happy with the design, I drew this little fairy, but I really didn't like the face, so I ended up covering it. Actually, looking at it, it's not that bad now that I think about it. But yeah, I drew this little fairy on a flower. She is holding a way smaller flower. Now that I think about it, that's kind of weird. Why is this flower so big and that one so small? How big is she? Questions that honestly don't need answering. We're gonna go to the next day. So for day 14 we got another pinky color, and the prompt was athlete. This was another one of those days where I fell behind for whatever reason, just life, you know, but it's also a very uninspired one. I just redrew a tennis player from Pinterest, but there we have it. I do really like it. Like I said, it's very simple and straightforward, but I really like the flow in the illustration. And I also really like the distribution of just the bright pink, and then like the black, and then like the lines are just pencil. It's really flowy. I like it. I actually do like it. The blush went a little bit wrong. I tried diluting the alcohol marker, and that didn't really work, but I do actually like it. So for the next day, which marks the halfway point of the challenge, day 15, the prompt was animal, and it was like a medium pinky color. And first thing I thought of was a flamingo, and honestly this flamingo drawing just really cracked me up. Like his head, something went wrong in his head, and I thought it was really funny. And then I thought of pigs, so I drew a pig, but I also messed up the head, which I also thought was really funny. But yeah, I didn't really feel like drawing an animal, like just an animal, so I was like, what if I combined the two? So I decided to draw like a pig girl, and I was really trying not to like cross into furry territory for personal reasons, maybe obvious reasons. So I just drew this girl with like a very pinkish skin and little piggy ears. I thought it was really cute, and I also sketched some more pigs. So I just decided to redraw this girl, which you can see right there. And I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. It looks very different. I just had to go on with it. I didn't have all day, but I wanted to draw another piggy, and I really liked this sketch of the pig, and I wanted to like trace it on a piece of paper, but I don't have a light box, so I was like, I'll just use my phone. That'll be perfect. It was not perfect. It did not work. My phone has touchscreen, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I was able to kind of transfer it, but because this paper was very thick and the phone light box was not working, it ended up really stiff, and I don't really like it. I didn't even shade it. Okay, so now that we are at the halfway point, up until this point, I just picked the prompt randomly every morning and then I had to go with it, and I wasn't very certain in a way, like I wanted more certainty. So I opened all of my prompts and I got 15 little prompts and I assigned them to a color. But there were a couple prompts that I didn't like, so there were a couple that I eliminated. One of them was centaur. I didn't want to draw like a half human, half horse just on a random day. That felt like too much. The second one was historic figure. Do I need to explain why I eliminated that one? Who am I gonna draw? George Washington? Like, no. I didn't feel like drawing anyone. And then the third one was shoes. I just didn't feel like drawing shoes. Like, I drew shoes. These don't really count, but I did draw some shoes, but I didn't really want it as a prompt. And on top of that, I wanted to draw more fan art in a way because I barely had. And I do think drawing fan art is very fun. So I just wanted to lay back a little bit more, do it a little bit more chill, so not so strict. I just picked prompts. If I didn't want to follow a prompt, I didn't force myself to. I was planning to finish this challenge, and if I was just putting too much pressure on myself, that wasn't gonna do it. But okay, the next day is day 16. So for day 16, we had this very, very light pale lavender color. And like I said, I wanted to draw more fan art, so I was thinking of characters who have white hair because I felt like that was the only thing that would really fit. So I first thought of Alora from Voltron. I haven't watched Voltron in years, but I just really like her design and she's honestly fun to draw, so she came to my mind. And then we also have Norman from The Promised Neverland, which is a character I really, really like, but I didn't end up going with him because I felt like his blouse is white, his pants are white, his hair is white, his skin will be white. That's just too much white, right? And then Kaworu from Neon Genesis Evangelion. I was gonna go with him, but I can never get his hair right, so I did not go with him, and instead I went with Alora, which you can see right here. I really like these sketches, honestly, but this one just feels stiff in a way. I don't like it. I honestly don't have that much to say about it other than I don't really like it. I kind of like the face. I think she looks cute. I also use this purple Energel pen, which I learned does not bleed with alcohol markers, like I said previously. And this was the only one I had. So actually that day, or the day after, I can't remember, but I went to the store and I bought another one. And another one. I didn't really use this one for the challenge, but I bought a black one so that I would have a line art that wouldn't smudge with alcohol markers, and you will definitely see this one being used later on. On to the next day, which is day 17, we got the prompt witch, and I feel like witch really fit well with the dark purple. I don't know if I'm the only one who associates witches with purple, but wait, actually. No, I picked those colors myself, now that I think about it. I'm an idiot. There's a reason it fits so well, but anyways, I digress. We had witch, and I sketched a couple of witches, and then this is what we eventually ended up with. It's just a simple witch. I didn't feel like looking up a reference, and whenever I draw hands without a reference, they always end up not looking all that good, so hidden hands it is. They're covered by the hair. It's fine, I drew a lot of hands. It's okay if I have a cheat day. But yeah, I do honestly really like this one. I think it's cute. I do actually really like this sketch though. I like the thick braid of this one. So day 18, the prompt was Flower Girl, and it was another very deep saturated purple color, which dark colors are often like a little harder to work with because if you use them, it's really hard to get contrast. So I first thought of Rarity from My Little Pony because her hair is the purple, right? And I didn't feel like drawing a pony, and I also actually didn't really feel like drawing her as a human, so she was eliminated. And then I went back to the prompt Flower Girl, and the color that I was using that day was deep violet, so I was like, let's draw some violets. Oh. And yeah, I just wanted to draw this girl with a big braid, bringing back that braid from the day before. And she was just kind of floating there with the braid. Originally, I was gonna make the hair white and then the skin dark, and then have like little accents of purple, but obviously that's not what I ended up going with. After doing the sketch, I realized if I do that, there's barely gonna be any purple in here, and I want the purple to be the main color, right? So yeah, I ended up making her hair purple and the skin light, and then the background some sort of medium color, and then I just added like tiny white flowers instead. So I did actually follow the prompt. I feel like Flower Girl is a little vague. I'm pretty sure that has something to do with weddings, but I picked the prompt myself. I can do whatever I want. So for the next day, the prompt was suit, which was exciting. I had this very dark blue color, which actually immediately reminded me of Scaramouche from Genshin Impact. So I was like, I'm gonna draw Scara in a suit. How exciting! So we had some planning for that, and then there he is. I actually really like this one. I don't really like how I didn't add line art to like the hair, and it's just kind of a blob that's there. I did add line art to the face, same as the day before, but it's gonna be a reoccurring thing. But with this Pentel Energel marker, it's a 0.7, so it's very thick and it's very hard to get details in if you have like a tiny face. So I feel like for this day it worked, but for like a full body, the face is just kind of too small and it didn't really work. So that's why I also use graphite sometimes. But yeah, day 19, I do really like it. It's very scrunkly around this part, but that's cute. I like him. So not gonna lie, from here on, all of the days got a little messed up, and I did do them in like the order, but sometimes I did a couple, sometimes I didn't do anything that day, and that was mostly because my hand was really starting to hurt, which I've been struggling a lot with lately, but that meant that I couldn't really draw that much, and it was just hurting, and I didn't want to overuse it, so that also made me a little unmotivated, but I did manage to finish the entire challenge in a month, so it's alright. So, for the 20th of Huevember, we had a very dark royal blue, and for some reason it reminded me of peacocks, even though peacocks normally have like a bit of a greener color. But yeah, I don't remember how, but I came up with like this little woman who had like a hairdo that kind of resembled a peacock. Is it a real peacock? That's even worse. Is it a real peacock? We don't know. Is it alive? That would be really weird. And I did some other things, some more peacock studies, because when do I ever draw peacocks? And even though I really like this concept, I'm not a fan of like how it turned out eventually. I think that the limits of the one hue and the black and white was just, it didn't really help with the piece. It didn't make it any better. And I don't know why I didn't shade the face. Once again, it's a very thick line art on the face. Although actually, I used some microns on this as well. But yeah, I don't really like how this looks. I really want to revisit this in the future. Maybe digitally where I just have a lot more freedom. But for now, this is what we have. And with that, we're going to continue to the next day, which is day 21. So the prompt was treasure, and we had this like sky blue, but it also reminded me of the ocean, and that's why I attached the prompt treasure to it. But then I didn't really feel like drawing a treasure chest because that was just too technical, to be honest, and I couldn't draw that much because my hand hurted, right? And also, I went on Google or the internet or Pinterest somewhere and just like Googled treasure, but like at least 70% of the pictures that I got were like, I'm guessing a K-pop group. I'm guessing there's a K-pop group, Treasure. I haven't really looked it up, but the internet wasn't much help. But I eventually found some like jewels and was like, what if I draw some fancy jewelry as a treasure? So that is what I ended up going with. I really like this thumbnail. I just feel like she looks so serene. I like the little jewel, I guess. And just the framing. I really wanted like a big nice frame, which this one just looks a little bare. What I ended up with. I do like this sketch, however, of the jewelry. And the finished one, I don't have that much to say about it. Maybe I'll redo it once again with more freedom. But it's not bad. I do like it. So next up we have day 22. I believe this was when I was really starting to fall behind, but I was still trying my best. The prompt was princess, and I still, we were nearing the end of the challenge, and I still wanted to, draw a skeleton. So I decided to just combine princess with skeleton, and we have some planning there. And then this is what I ended up with. I really like it. It's honestly one of my favorite days. I really did not spend long on it at all. And I barely planned it like the dress, and this, it's a little awkward. Like, the top half is just, mwah. I love it. I really love it. Like, I only used a marker and no visible sketch or anything else. A little bit of a white gel pen, but that's all. That doesn't count. That's white. There's a fly. I don't know if you can see him. But I do really like how it's looking. Definitely one of my favorite days, actually. And then on that same day, but like technically the next day, I guess, which was 23, the prompt was horns. And I just drew like a little sheep guy with horns and like very fluffy hair, and then with the blue color that was attached to this day, it really reminded me of clouds. I really decided to like go into that idea and just drew like a little guy with cloud hair and horns. So there it is. It's very simple once again. And also the little cartoony dot eyes, which are still adorable in my opinion. I also used like a colored pencil for the clouds. And even though I barely used the marker, because I only used it in the background, which is a little uncreative, I guess, I do really like it. Moving on to the next day, there was this like nice minty blue light color, and that immediately reminded me of Lan Wangji from Modatsushi. So I knew that I had to draw him, and I was like, if I give him his little guchin, I can attach the prompt music to it. So that's what I did. We have a couple of sketches, nothing much. I do really like this one, how serene it is, like the face. But this is obviously the one that I ended up with. And honestly, the process for this was so much fun. It was the third one I did that day because I did these two as well. But for this one, I mostly did the colors first and then the line art. I feel like this is one of the few days where I actually managed to make the thicker line art work. That's probably for a big reason because the eyes are closed and they aren't trying to have too much detail in a way. But yeah, I just really like it, so we're just gonna look at it for a second. Wow, I tell you guys again that this man is actually the love of my life, and I love him very much, and I could talk about him all day, but we're not gonna do that today, maybe another day. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite days. Moving on to day 25, the prompt was mermaids. And once again, I was really excited for this prompt before I got it, but then when I actually got it, I was like, wait, what am I gonna do with this? But then I remembered this little guy that I drew like forever ago, and I wanted to draw them again. So I did some planning, and I really like the horizontal poses, but that wouldn't work because that's not the space that I had to work with. So eventually this is what we ended up with. There really isn't that much contrast. I used like a colored pencil for the line art, but it's pretty much the same color, so that didn't work that well. Once again, my gray markers were starting to just die, really. I also went with the dot eye for this one because I knew that it wouldn't look good if I tried to draw a normal eye this size. Honestly, I feel like I could have done a lot better. I like the concept, but like I drew so many poses, and then this awkward one arm up, one arm in the face pose is what I ended up with. Why? What's the little seaweed down here? I do not know, but I do like this little guy. We're gonna continue with day 26. The color was just this perfect Hatsune Miku color, so I wanted to draw her. So after like these two thumbnails, I was like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. And then I drew this, and I don't like it. I really don't like it. Once again, it's the thickness of this pen messing up all the details, and the face just looks really ugly, and I didn't like it at all. And I was actually able to find some gray markers that still worked. Amazing! But because I didn't like it, the next day I decided to draw her again, and just a little head, but I really like this a lot more. I only used the marker and then pencil. But yeah, this marker, let me show you. Okay, I decided to ruin it even more because it was a lost cause, but this is what the nib looks like. It's literally a brush. It doesn't work. Eventually all of the brushes started to feather out and you just couldn't get any detail with it anymore. And I had to use like the bullet nib, but that didn't work either. And I was just starting to get fed up with these markers, and they were also dried out, most of them. Like, I'd start a day and I do like 3 strokes and I was like, wow, this marker is so juicy, it works so well. But then after like 5 strokes, the marker decided to dry out and it would barely work anymore. I was like, oh, never mind, it's not a juicy, nice marker. So yeah, even though the marker didn't really work, I do like how this ended up. Why is this here? I do like how this ended up looking. For the next day, we have Greek myth was the prompt. So I drew Medusa, and I was really excited about this prompt once again. But when it actually came to it, I was like, wait, I'm gonna have to draw snakes. And I was not excited to draw snakes because it sounded hard, alright? I just didn't want to draw a whole bunch of snakes. So I did something really quickly. I just drew this. It's really not the best. It's not bad in any way, in my opinion. I just don't have that much to say about it. Some of the snakes, however, are really, really cute, so that is nice. But yeah, that is day 27. We are almost at the end. And then this color was like the only real green color that I had, and I was super excited about it because I was like, yay, a green color, right? I'm gonna draw like nature and plants. And I got kind of lost in my design. And okay, so here's the finished one. There we have it. You can see that I barely used the green because, okay, well, in my defense, this marker was dried out, very dried out, and the nib is barely working. But yeah, I kind of forgot to really use the green, so eventually only like this part was really green because I went over the overall with gray, and I was like, I just tried adding some bushes, but the marker was dried out and I didn't love the face or anything. So it's not really the best day, but I was watching Pokemon when drawing this and that was fun, so a win is a win. And then we are at the last page. Are you guys ready? Okay, so for day 29, we had this very, very fluorescent green yellow. And I thought that was super exciting. I don't think I've ever used this marker. And you'd say,
oh, it must have been so juicy and nice.
And it was, until it wasn't. But yeah, I just think these markers are way too old, so I can't really blame it. But yeah, so what I decided to go with. There was no prompt for this day. But it reminded me of like, you know, in movies when there's just like zeros and ones just floating all around in like a cyber kind of way, and or like when there's hackers and there's just like, and there's just zeros and ones flying everywhere. That is what I had in mind. So I was like, what if we draw this girl and she has just like those numbers all over her face? So that is what I ended up going with. There she is. This is honestly also one of my favorite days. I just really like how she's looking, and I just feel like it's a nice illustration. You can't really see it in this light, honestly, but it's very fluorescent. I wish it was like a sunny day, but it's literally gonna snow later today. It's a very gray day. And then can we get some drum roll for the last day? Are you guys ready? Day 30. Ta-da! We had the prompt was casual outfit, so it was this very, very bright fluorescent, once again yellow. And at first I did like the first design that Pinterest gave me, and then I was like, wait, what if it's like, you know, when people bleach their hair and it's just like bright yellow and it really doesn't look all that good? I wanted to draw that, but like make it look a little good, and then like with grown out roots, and I thought that was such a fun idea, so that is exactly what I ended up going with. And there we have her. I decided to give her coffee to really play in that casual outfit. And she looks like an art student, in my opinion, so that is what she is now. She has a little kitty. Honestly, this was a very pleasant drawing, honestly. I had fun drawing this. It all went great, apart from my markers dying. And I was just honestly glad to be done with this challenge, because 30-day challenges can be quite a lot, but I will get into that a little bit later. So like I said earlier, this month I really wanted to practice my marker illustrations, and this day, the last day, is actually really similar to the first day, so you can really compare the two, and I think that's really exciting. And maybe as a viewer you can't really see any kind of improvement, but for me, I really feel like I've improved and just gained so much more experience with markers, and I'm a lot more comfortable with them now, which I think is awesome. I definitely learned a whole bunch of things this month. I also learned that I have to buy new markers, but apart from that, it was just very fun. I really enjoyed trying out different things, different techniques, coming up with ideas and concepts, and just challenging myself in general. I think I did a really good job on that. And with that, would I recommend doing Huevember? I absolutely would. It was very fun. You really need to be sure that you don't put too much pressure on yourself, because then you can get lost and then it's not going to be enjoyable anymore. And it should be enjoyable, right? But yeah, everyone is different. Everyone has different lives, so Huevember is also going to be different for everyone, for every artist. But if you've been thinking about doing Huevember maybe next year, do it. Just try it. Maybe you won't finish, that's okay. Maybe you can make 3 illustrations in the month, and that's still a win, in a way. You drew. I think that if you've drawn something, because I've drawn a lot of things and concepts that I wouldn't never have thought of otherwise, like this little cloud guy, this little skeleton princess. It was so much fun, and I wouldn't have thought of that if I didn't have my own prompts and didn't have that color. And it's really fun to try and find a way to combine the two and just come up with something. Overall, it's a great challenge to just practice your illustration skills, like your contrast and values, and and a great way to practice a medium that you like. You can do it with any medium, obviously, also digitally if that's what you want. I just decided to do it with markers. In hindsight, was that a good idea? Maybe. If I'm gonna do it next year, maybe I'll do another art supply. We will see. I really hope that you enjoyed listening to me explaining everything about this Huevember. I had a lot of fun. It was definitely challenging, but it was fun. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Remember that if you want more insight and behind the scenes on all of these drawings from the first week, you can watch the full video here. I would really appreciate it. Also, be sure to let me know which day of these was your favorite. I would really love to hear that. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to let me know. If you want to see more of this sketchbook, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because a sketchbook tour is coming out very soon. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments. And with that, I really hope that the rest of your day is awesome, that you grab your sketchbook and draw a little bit in it, and that your day is filled with beautiful art. Also be sure to do some stretches. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!